Cool. So we'll start, let's start lying down actually before we get into, I wanted to do some wrist friendly stuff today and a little bit of like wrist strengthening, wrist conditioning for those of us that it's tough to put weight on the wrist. So before all of that, we'll start lying down and you can bring your feet flat so that your knees are bent and pointed towards the ceiling, and find space between your feet and between your knees and between your thighs so that you have some distance between your legs, like as if you were in Tadasana or something like that. And for now, you can just place your hands wherever is comfortable, maybe out to the sides, or maybe resting on your torso. And just allow your shoulder blades to start to relax into the ground. Allow the back of the pelvis to start to relax into the ground. And then imagine or feel your spine in your body. And just notice where it is in the middle of you. You can just maybe you first rest your attention on the bottom of the sacrum there at the back of the pelvis, and you can kind of like walk yourself up or visualize the spine coming up, meaning towards your head from the pelvis, going through the lower back, making a little curve maybe. And coming up through the middle of you, meeting the ribs around the back. And finally coming up to form part of the spine that makes the neck. You're noticing the cervical spine there. And then the back of the head just easily resting back onto the ground. And then bring your hands, if it's comfortable, onto your body. So one hand will go underneath the collarbones and the other hand will go like below the navel. Let your elbows be heavy, resting off to the sides so your shoulders are still relaxed. And as you breathe in, you can feel into that lower hand, the hand that's on your lower abdomen. And feel the breath filling up the space under the lower hand and the upper hand. So you might feel kind of like the breath comes in, fills up the lower hand first, and then the upper hand. And it might take like a few rounds of directing the breath to feel like it's filling the lower part first. So you can just let it find its way there. As you exhale, you can feel that the lower hand descends towards the spine to push the breath up and out. So the belly relaxes towards the spine, the breath moves out. In other words, you can feel that the initiation of the inhalation and the exhalation seems to kind of come from the lower hand, the space under the lower hand. You fill from bottom to top and then you empty, releasing the bottom. And feel how you can sort of tuck your chin in a little bit towards your throat to keep your back of your neck long. And you might get the sense of looking down into your heart space, Shoulders stay nice and relaxed. And you can draw your attention in these next few rounds, now that the diaphragm is moving and the breath is nice and full, you can direct your attention towards the chest, the space under the top hand. So as you breathe in, you can feel some energy, some awareness coming into the chest after it feels bottom to top. Then as you exhale and the belly moves towards the spine, you might feel that there's a fullness that kind of stays, the chest stays lifted and alive. So with each breath, like you're blowing up a balloon or something, you're kind of each breath you're amplifying the energy in the chest. The breaths are nice and grounded, diaphragmatic breaths, deep, smooth breaths. There's an energy that might be starting to accumulate in the chest. Notice how you're not like making anything happen. If what I'm describing like isn't really what is happening, that's okay. You're just noticing you're you're offering a direction for the breath. You're maybe steering the breath in a particular way, but most of all, you're noticing just how it is. And then keeping any observations that you've been making, I'll just direct your attention to another element, sort of adding on a new thing to notice. You can notice your tailbone there at the bottom of the spine. And as you are exhaling, keeping that fullness in the chest, letting the belly release towards the spine, just be aware of your tailbone, long on the floor, pointing in the direction of your same direction that your toes are pointing. You inhale, you fill up, the chest lights up. As you exhale, you can feel that the bottom of the exhalation, as the breath is moving all the way out, there's a kind of maybe awareness of the tailbone that can come. The sense that the space between the chest and the lower part of the body, the pelvis, the tailbone, the pubic bone, all of that is getting, there's more and more distance growing between them. You're getting longer. So with this sense that the chest is lifted, the tailbone is elongated and pointing in the same direction as your toes. Just notice all of the three-dimensional space in the abdomen. The next time that you exhale, exhale fully and feel the tailbone point towards your heels. Just feel the tailbone get long, pointing away from your head. And then as you inhale, you can let the pelvis be weightless and inhale, lift the pelvis off the ground just a little bit, maybe at first. The breath comes in, fills up from bottom to top, lets the pelvis kind of lift off the ground. And then as you exhale, you're releasing the breath Releasing the belly towards the spine. You're feeling the spine come down towards the ground, the tailbone reaching towards the heels. Nice and easy, long. So each inhalation, you'll find that weightlessness, lifting, reaching your knees and your tailbone in the same direction that your toes are pointing, reaching, 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 and lifting. And then exhaling, softly coming down. Feeling that as you kind of touch down, the tailbone stays long on the floor. A couple more times like this, coming into a little bridge pose. And maybe this bridge pose starts to grow, become a little bit more, not because you're pushing with the legs or anything, but just because you're expanding, floating, lifting up, rising up. Looking down into that space in the heart and feeling that space in the heart kind of looking up towards you. Your arms could still be on your body or they could be by your sides. That's another option. If they're by your sides, you can kind of feel the weight shift into the outer upper arms, or maybe the palms are on the floor and you can use the palms to support and balance. It. And then just come to rest with your pelvis on the ground. And then as you exhale, you'll bring your knees in towards your chest. You could go one at a time, or you could do them both at the same time. Just bringing your knees in towards your chest, holding the backs of your legs or the fronts of your legs, whatever you can reach. And then you can reach the soles of your feet up towards the ceiling, so you make like an L shape. And if you want, you could bring your arms out to the sides with your palms facing down for just like stability, balance. And feel here how the knees can be bent. You feel the back of the pelvis is on the ground. In a sense, like the base of you is the top of your leg is like the bottom. In a way, the foot is free, and the back of the hip is grounded. And then feel the back of the pelvis is on the ground. Keep that being true. You'll inhale, reach your arms up overhead. So just stretching your arms up overhead so that the backs of your hands touch the ground. And then exhale, just bring your hands back down to your sides. Now, if you want, as you inhale and you reach the arms up overhead, you could lower the right leg any amount. You can keep the knee bent. It doesn't have to be, should be like, keep it on the easier side. Just lower it down a little bit as if it was going to come down to the ground, like away from you. Yeah. And then you'll exhale and bring it back to point up towards the ceiling. So to any degree, inhaling and reaching the leg away from you, arms coming up, and then exhaling, bringing the arms back down by your sides, the legs back up towards the ceiling. And you can alternate legs like this, inhaling. It could come like to hover like an inch off the ground. It could be a couple of feet off the ground, whatever is, interesting for the abdominal muscles, but not like too much. And not causing the pelvis to shift around too much. And always guided and led by your breath. So your inhale brings the leg away from you, any amount. Yep. And the exhale brings it close back. Yeah. If you feel really strong in the abdominals, of course you could do both legs at a time. But I feel like one leg at a time is challenging enough. Sometimes when you do a little too much, you'll notice it's too much because the lower back will start to try and like help out by arching and doing things that it thinks is going to make it easier. We're trying to isolate a little bit more in the abdominals. For why? For not just for like abs, just for like abs. But because I think that there's a having an integrated kind of feeling of the breath and these strong muscles at the center of the body helping with things like when there is weight bearing in the hands. I think it really helps when there's more integration through the core. Yeah. And then you can just hug once you've done an even amount of sides, you can hug your knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock side to side, massaging the lower back, especially if anything feels a little cranky. Good. And then you can roll over to one side and come to a seat. And then we'll just chant to formally open the practice. But first, you'll find your seat. You'll find where you're touching the floor, feel where you feel support. And feel once again the presence of the spine in the body, however it is, wherever you feel like it is. Just notice that it's there, connecting you from top to bottom. You can kind of feel the rest of the body branching out from this frame of the spine, the bones. You feel your chest and your belly. And we'll just chant Om to start, so you can bring your palms together if you want. You could bow your chin in towards your fingertips. So we'll inhale. Now we'll do a few like wrist thing. It all, wrist pain all depends on if there was an injury or if it's like we were talking about before, just like a lack of use, or what I also think plays in, which is like a lack of letting other body parts help with the whatever is happening in the wrists. So if anything hurts, don't do it. But if these are, maybe this will be a series because I feel like I have a lot of ideas for this. This is good. I think this is a common thing. So we'll first come to, at any point you want to take a break, you can take a break. It's totally fine. But you'll come to hands and knees, and you can have more weight on your knees than on your hands. Yep. So you can kind of sit back on your heels and not put a lot of pressure onto your hands, or you can kind of come back, more directly, shoulders over wrists, whatever feels good. You can always just sit back and take breaks. But with a little pressure on your hands, however you want to be, just feel your spine and your head and your tail. And you can kind of shift gently forward and back. I'm kind of easing off the wrist by tucking my toes and kind of staying in this little crouch. But rather than totally slumping, I can feel that the chest is open still and the lower back is broad. And I'm kind of feeling that, like, as I move my head forward, my tail moves forward. As I move my tail back, my head moves back. So those seem to be connected, and that's good news. And then with a little, however much pressure you want on your wrists, or on your hands really, we're actually going to lift the heels of the hands and then put them back down. So you could do this like fully with shoulders over wrists. I have to do it one at a time if that's the case. One at a time is good probably for no matter what. So you're just lifting a heel of the hand off the ground and then putting it back down. And lifting and then putting it back down. And keeping your fingers really spread. Feeling that the tip of every finger is pressing down. And you can kind of feel like where you feel activation when you do this movement. I'm feeling like through the different parts of the forearm. And after a few, you can just like rest. You can also do this without putting much weight on the hands at all. I'm kind of actually sitting on your heels. And same thing, you're kind of lifting one heel of the hand off the floor and putting it back. So this is strengthening like muscles in the forearms that support these, dainty little wrist joints. And then you can like at any point also shaking out the wrist is nice. Sometimes we have wrist funkiness from like not from like just like a stuck something. This is actually good for those of us that the wrist pain comes from stuckness. It's nice to like shake it out and it feels kind of good. You can shake out from the elbows. You can shake out from the shoulders. You could shake out from just the wrist itself. You can feel that your fingers can kind of shake out. You can kind of like flick the fingers. And then just rest back in Vajrasana, just sitting on your heels with your hands there. And now you'll place your hands back on the ground again and just feel that as you have your hands, whether you're in a full tabletop or kind of just resting on your haunches with your hands on the ground, you can feel that you're pressing down into the ground through the pads of the fingertips. Focus your attention on the fingertips first. And then you can also feel the base of every finger, these knuckles here pressing down. Yeah. So feel that you're pressing down through your knuckles more so than from here, right? This is what is like so dainty and delicate. So you spread the fingers really wide, then you like have like all of this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of times I'll say push, like in downward facing dog, push down and forward. What does that actually? You can like imagine your long nails growing really long. You're pressing down through the base of every finger and every fingertip. And you can feel actually that the heel of the hand isn't touching the ground. So it might be touching the ground, but it might not be like you can feel the opposite. Push with just the heels of the hand unless it hurts. That's something. My fingers aren't even touching the ground. Or now my fingers are, but they like have no juice. Versus pressing down through the front of the hand. You can kind of feel that there's a little less pressure on the heel of the hand. I also feel when I push down through the heels of the hands, I didn't even mean to do this, but my shoulders got all like scrunched up and my chin came forward. It got all weird. When I pressed down through the fronts of the hands, or the fingertips and the thing, my shoulders moved back in space because they're connected to my hands. I don't know if that's what you're saying. My shoulders actually got broad. When I pressed down through the heels of my hands, my shoulders got small. So I feel like all of this stuff is connected. Good. And then you can just take a rest. And then one more thing we can look at. Press your hands into the floor once again, pressing down through the base of every finger and every fingertip. And I think this works whether you're sitting back on your legs or whether you're in a tabletop. But you'll imagine that you're like you're palming the top of two mason jar lids, and you're going to open the jars in opposite directions. But the hands are pressing down onto the floor, so the hands won't actually move. But you'll just feel that kind of intention to press down and rotate the lids. And what might happen is it might cause some kind of rotation in the arms or in the shoulders. You might feel kind of activation down into the kind of where the thumb and the first finger meet in the hand. Or maybe just a little bit more like intentionality through the palms as you're imagining that you're like, you got to grab the lid, you know, you got to grab it and twist it. So there's a kind of down and around kind of grabbiness. Good. And then if you want to come into a brief downward facing dog, you can, or you can come to a child's pose. Or maybe we can all come to child's pose first, just feeling this, you know, contact of the hands on the ground in child's pose, feeling the forehead resting on the floor, letting the hands start to press in that down and forward type of way, and maybe even kind of drive down into the ground like you're opening the jars. You can feel that space at the heel of the hand, or at least the lightness at the heel of the hand. And then you can take a few breaths here, or you can turn this child's pose into downward facing dog for as long as you want. And if you come into downward facing dog, you can feel not just that, you know, it's not all about the hands. You have your feet on the ground, your knees can be bent so that you can feel that really clear support through the legs. You can also feel how as you're pressing into the ground with your hands, you're pressing down and forward, you're pressing, driving the feet and maybe even the heels into the floor, you're lifting the pelvis up towards the ceiling. You can imagine that there's just an overall lightness, that you're not like pushing into the ground, but in fact the ground is holding you up and your spine is extending up and back. For some reason the imagery seems to, I think it changes how we organize. I think it's not just like imagine that your wrists don't hurt and like do it. That's not what I'm trying to say. But can imagine a sense of lightness. I think it engages the lower body more, or lets the spine lengthen in a different type of way. I'm not really sure. Reminds when I was at school in Chicago, I had a teacher. I was like, "It's cold. It's like really fucking cold," and she was like, "You know that you can like use your." She was a voice teacher. It's like, you know, you can use your breath to actually change. Like yogis do it. Like they change their breath and they don't feel cold. And I was like, "That's bullshit. It's like so cold." And then I saw her one day and she was like, "It's fucking cold outside." And I was like, "You said that I could change my vibes and the breath would change." And she was like, "I don't know what I was talking about. It's cold out there." But just see if there's something of I'm so light on my hands, and then see if there's something that changes. If it does, then that's great. And then somehow we'll come to standing. So you could, from downward facing dog, walk towards your hands and come up that way. You could, from kneeling, you know, just stand up without putting pressure on your hands. You'll come to just an easy standing pose with your hands down by your sides and your chest is open, you're facing forward. Soft bend in your knees so you can feel the support of the floor through your feet. Good. And then do a couple of things standing. You'll inhale and reach the arms out to the sides, coming up to like a V shape. And imagine that you have strings tied to your fingertips. And then you're just going to, you have strings on your fingertips, and the next string is at your wrists. You're turning yourself into some kind of weird puppet, right? So you have strings on your fingertips. You'll just clip those strings and hang from your wrists. So you'll just, and just let your wrists be the top point. Then you'll cut the strings from your wrists and you'll hang from the strings that are on your elbows. And just let everything from the elbow to the fingertips be like totally floppy. And then you'll cut the elbow string, so you'll just have your shoulders being the top. Yeah, inhale, reach all the way up again. So everything above the wrists will go floppy. You'll chop the strings and then it's just the wrists. Then everything from the elbows up will flop. So you'll let yourself hang from the elbows. Wrists, fingers, everything is soft. And then you'll cut the elbow strings and just have your shoulders be the tallest part. One more time, inhaling. With a soft face, soft neck, just hang from the wrists. Fingers are super soft, like totally just no bones. Then the elbows, the wrists, the fingers, everything bleh. And then finally the shoulders are the tallest. Everything else on the arms is floppy. Good. And then you'll take your hands, interlace them, and you'll start to make some big figure eights with your shoulders and your wrists. Like you have a big crayon in your fists, like you're like a little baby kid drawing on a huge canvas. And let your jaw be soft. Let your hips, your knees can be as involved or uninvolved as they want to, but the breath is moving. This is with the idea that like if the structures of the shoulders, etc., are a little more free, maybe we can let energy flow through the arms a little more efficiently and not put so much pressure on the wrists when it comes to things where the hands are bearing weight. And go the other way. So you're gonna make your figure eight with the other direction. Good. And then just bring your hands back to your sides and letting your palms face forward. Let your shoulders, everything just be open, easy. Collarbones open. Good. And then step the right foot forward, left foot back. And I guess it could have been good to have blocks, but I forgot to say that. And another thing that could be good would be like a chair, like some kind of surface in front of you, or you don't need it. So those are some thoughts. Yes. Okay, now I see it. Now I see the Russian, or sorry, now I see the Irish dance. Now I see that, yes, calves, calves, calves. Also, just the stance that you took. One foot forward, other foot back. Ready to. Am I right? Okay, right foot forward, left foot back. Yes, yes. Or whichever one. And I will just do some full body expressing standing poses just to see that, in an asana practice, what we really care about the most is we want to move. A lot of times, sometimes we'll say like we want to move the spine in all possible directions. That's like a nice, well-rounded asana practice. If there's a little forward bend, a little back bend, a little twist, that's like great. Little side bend, that's great. So this can be done without any of these like chaturanga, downward dog, like wrist intense things. So we'll start with the right foot forward, left foot back. The left foot's at a little bit of an angle. And as you inhale, you'll reach the arms forward and up, coming in, bending your front knee as you do so. So you'll inhale, opening up into warrior one, and then exhale, straightening the leg and lowering the arms. Yep. A couple times like that. Inhale, coming forward with the chest, bending into the knee, feeling maybe a little back bend come in the upper back, and then exhaling to release back. Nice. Inhaling, reaching forward as you bend the knee, opening the chest, and exhaling, coming back. Maybe one more time. Inhaling, reaching forward and coming up. Welcome, Josh. Josh is here. And then exhaling, coming back. Good. So it's a nice forward bend, and now we'll add a little back bend, which I'll actually show with the chair because I feel like this is good for a lot of us to have. Don't need the chair, but it's a possibility. Right foot forward, left foot back. We said, yeah. So you'll inhale. I'm headless, but it doesn't matter. Inhale, you'll come into this Virabhadrasana 1, reaching forward and up with the hands. And then as you exhale, you'll fold over the legs, straightening at any amount and bringing your hands to the chair or the ground or blocks or whatever's easy to reach. Then you'll inhale, bend into the front knee to come up. And exhale, straighten the leg, lower the arms. So you're inhaling into Virabhadrasana 1, opening the chest. Big back bend, big front body opener. Then you'll exhale and fold over the front leg. Bring your hands to some support or bring your hands to the floor. Spine is long. Inhale, bending into the front leg to come forward and up with the arms. And then exhaling, just lowering the hands to the sides, straightening the leg. Good. Maybe one or two more times like that with this sequence. You're moving between a nice big open front body opener. You can feel it all the way through your back leg, through the front of the hip, everything. And then exhale, you're folding forward as much as feels good. Maybe your arms come down. Inhale, come back to come forward with the chest. Exhaling, coming upright. Feeling both feet are on the floor. One more time, maybe this last time, you can feel how you inhale, you fill from bottom to top, just like we did before, just the breathing. Bottom to top, open chest, ah. And then exhale, the belly moves towards the spine to fold you down. Yeah. Inhaling, letting the breath lift you up. And then exhale, straightening the leg, lowering the arms. And step the front foot towards your back foot. Yep, and just pause for a moment. And then you'll step the left foot forward, right foot back. Back foot is at a little bit of an angle. And the same thing, we'll first just start with the back bend. So you're inhaling, reaching the arms forward and up, opening the chest, feeling it open, not just the chest, but maybe even the side belly, the front of the hip. And then exhale, straightening the leg, lowering the arms. Inhaling, coming forward and up. Exhale, coming back. You're moving at the pace of your own breath, of course. And you can start to then The next time you inhale into this big open front body, then exhale, push into the front foot to straighten the front knee. The front hip moves back in space and you're folded over the leg to any degree. You can come down to a chair, you can come down to fingertips to the floor. Inhale, you bend into the knee, open everything up with the inhalation, coming into warrior one. Exhaling, coming back on top of your own 2 feet. Neutral. And continue like this in the same pattern on this side. It's nice to always return to the upright, kind of upright, exhaling into upright, because you can just feel your 2 feet. You feel that you're in the middle, and then you're like, okay, cool. And this is so open then compared to that, opening up the front body. This is so open in the back body. Yeah. Then when you've finished, you can step your front foot towards your back foot, coming back to stand. Yeah. And then take a nice wide stance. You could have a block for this also or not. You'll take a pretty wide stance and you turn your right foot toes towards the short end of your mat. Your left foot toes slightly in. And then you can take a bend in the right knee and feel this warrior two with both feet supporting you, arms are out wide. You could take a little wrist circle here if that feels good. So here we'll take a side bend. So we're exhaling to side bend the torso, side of the torso towards this bent knee. And if you had a block, you could bring your hand to a block or to the outside of your foot on the block, or you could rest your elbow on your thigh. This top arm I like to have on my sacrum or on my hip, maybe up towards the ceiling. You'll inhale to come up, keeping your legs how they are. So you're exhaling, you're exhaling into this side bend. And inhaling to come up, open chest. Yeah. Exhaling into the side bend. And you can feel your pelvis stays really supportive. Your tailbone is kind of reaching back, or not back, but more like down towards your back heel. You're inhaling to come up. I guess another way to say that is as you side bend, you're not like sticking your hip out, sticking your butt out, and coming into the forward plane. You're staying nice and like neat and just like sliding to the side rather than like, yeah. And it's not exact, and like there's booty and stuff, and their spines have curves and bodies are 3D, but you can just kind of feel that it's a clear like yeah right in the middle of the torso, side bend. Yeah. And then you can press into your right leg to straighten the right knee. Yeah. And then just switch your feet. Bending into the left knee. Inhale, widen the arms. And then you'll exhale to side bend, bringing your hands, maybe elbow to thigh, or hand to the floor. Inhale to come up. Exhale to side bend. second. Maybe reaching the arm if that feels good. Yeah. And you can kind of feel that sense of like, I breathe in, I'm like so full, I'm like weightless. I don't even feel all of this strength in the legs. Of course you do, and you ought to, because it feels kind of good. The burn. Good. And then straighten the front leg by pushing into the foot. And then just turn your toes slightly out. Just take a moment to be in the center. Kind of shift side to side. Yeah. And then walk your feet a little more together until you can step them back together. Good. And then you'll inhale, reach the arms forward and up. And exhale, fold down, bending your knees as much as you want to. And you can bring your hands to the floor. You could step on your hands if that feels good on your wrists. If it feels bad on your wrists, don't, obviously, but you can step on your hands. Yeah. Letting your head and neck hang down. And then you can find a little support from like fingertips here or fists to push your fists into the floor. And you'll step your left leg back. So use your fists there just for like support as you step your left leg back. Yeah. Good. And then press into both feet. So now your back heel is lifted. You'll press into both feet to rise up into a lunge. Yeah. Little balance action there. You used your hands for support. Your back heel is lifted and you press into both feet to come powerfully up. The back knee can bend a little bit. Good. Let me see if I can remember. We'll bring the hands to the chest. And you'll inhale and widen the elbows. Maybe I should tilt the camera so you can freaking see what I'm talking about. wide elbows. And then keeping your chest nice and open, keeping your legs are supported here. Just feel the openness across the collarbones. And then you'll tilt your hands forward. So your arms will come down to wherever's comfortable. You know, whatever works. Bringing it back, moving with your breath, inhaling, bringing the fingertips to face up-ish, or maybe even back behind you a little bit. And then exhaling and bringing the fingertips point forward-ish or down-ish. Maybe some of us have even more rotation. I certainly don't. Inhale, coming back up. Then from this kind of down position, you can push the arms back. Yeah. Yeah. And then you'll inhale and swing the arms forward with straight arms like you're going to high 10 somebody. Or maybe even reach up, open up into a back bend. And then exhale, bring your elbows back out to the sides. Inhale here. And exhale, bring your hands to your chest. So do that one more time. You're not forcing your anything to move where it doesn't want to move, but just exploring like range of motion in the shoulders. So you'll inhale, open the elbows, open the hands. Exhale, move the fingertips forward and maybe downish. Then you'll reach the arms back. Chest is coming forward, fingertips are reaching back. You'll swing the arms forward and up. Maybe with an inhalation. Exhale, elbows come out to the sides. Inhale here. And exhale, bring the hands to the chest. And then you can step your back foot forward, maybe. Maybe we should front foot back. I don't know. Somehow you'll come back to standing. Yeah, and kind of like shake it out. Good. Then you'll inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, folding down, bending your knees as much as you want. Bring fists to the ground. And step your other leg way back, so your right leg back. And then you'll use both legs to come up into a lunge on this side. With your back knee a little bent. And then your chest. And we'll move through the shoulder range of motion again. So you'll inhale, widen the elbows. Bring the fingertips forward or maybe downish, or however far down we go. Inhaling, feeling the chest is open. Exhale, pushing the hands back. Inhale, sweeping the arms forward. Exhale, bringing the elbows out to the sides. Inhaling here, big open chest. And then exhale, bringing the hands to the heart. Inhale, the hands off of the heart, out to the sides. Exhale, moving the fingertips forward and maybe down without like letting the whole spine follow. You're just seeing if you can let the fingertips, the arms, the forearms, and then the shoulders can squeeze towards each other as you reach back. And you'll inhale, reach forward and up. Exhale, arms come out to the side, elbows come out to the side. Inhale here. And exhale, bring the hands in. Good. And then you can step your feet together. And let your hands fall by your sides. Just notice whatever you notice. And then here, standing with your knees slightly bent, you can take fists. This is another little thing that you could do if it feels good. If it doesn't feel good, you don't have to do it, and you shouldn't if it feels bad. You can make little weird little circles with your wrists with the palms facing down, or like the fingers facing down. So rather than like your, have your rave gloves, this is like very like boring rave gloves, I guess. You can go the other way. Whoa, one of mine like doesn't move. I'm like looking at the Zoom and just noticing that my left one doesn't want to like fully go down. Come on. So that's a fun thing. Like this is this is my hand I use less. I guess that's what that is. I was just watching them both move at the same time. I was like, girl, where are you? Why don't you want to go? Because most of the time this arm is just like whatever. And this arm is like blah, 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 blah. Just stuff like that. So this is like part of my theory is that like a stuck shoulder girdle, all of this stuff just doesn't work together so well, and then unequal pressure gets put on different body parts. That might be part of what's going on with a lot of us when it feels like. Here's another thing we can do: open the fingers so big, and squeeze them. We just might not be used to this kind of thing. So then when we're in downward facing dog and we're like spread the fingers wide, it's like I am spreading the fingers out. No, as wide as you can. Like uncomfortably wide. Yeah, big weird claws. You can kind of do things like this. You can play like hellish like blah, 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 piano solos. And like that makes my wrists tired. So that makes me feel like these muscles are just like, that's kind of a lot. drop out whenever you need to. This is like a lot. We're gonna like wake up sore tomorrow. But this is all okay, one last thing. And let's pair it with something else in the lower body. This is some weird shit. I don't know. I went to acting school. I don't know why we're doing this. I have no idea what this had to do with anything. But you can bend into the legs and just kind of feel the support from the lower body. And feel the spine is right there in the middle. And the pelvis is right there in the middle. That's all very good. Great, someone's coming in right as I start doing something weird, as usual. So your pelvis is there. It's right in the middle. It's supportive. Your legs are nice and supportive. Welcome, Julie. I can't even tell you what we're doing right now. We're doing something. You're gonna just gently, this is what my teacher said. Pet 2 chinchillas that are floating to the sides of you. So you want to like be very graceful and like beautiful with your petting of the chinchilla, you know? I wish I could, you know, they're really beautiful because they're very, very soft. Yeah. And then you can come across your body and pet one chinchilla that you have in your hand. And your breath is moving. Yeah. Inhale, come back, petting 2 little floating chinchillas. And then exhale to twist the upper body and pet a little chinchilla that's in the other hand. Very, very soft. I don't know why they were chinchillas and I don't know why they were floating. It's a quirky and beautiful image. And then inhale back to center. Good. And then let's just take another little twist without the chinchillas. You can take your arms out to the side and you can just kind of twist from the lower abdomen, twist to the side. And inhale, come back to the center and twist to the other side. And come back to the center. And then straighten your legs, reach the arms out to the sides. And then you'll exhale, you'll twist to the side, this time bringing your hand across to come to your knee or whatever is easy to grab or touch, rest on. Just taking as big or as small of the twist as you want. I like to turn my toes slightly out just because it feels better on my knee. But you're inhaling to come to center and then exhaling to come across. Feeling that the twist really comes from the middle of you. And that top arm can go wherever is comfortable. I had to just like put it on my butt, honestly, or my sacrum, just for somewhere to rest, somewhere to land. Also to feel the sacrum is there, and the sacrum, the hips aren't really twisting. It's the middle of the abdomen that's twisting. And then the next time that you're twisted, you can stay for a breath. So you'll inhale in the twist and exhale in the twist. And then inhale to come back up. Now exhale, twisting. Inhale, staying in the twist. Exhale, staying in the twist. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, lower the arms down, and then step your feet together. Yeah. Good. Now, if we want, we can move through a little Suriname Scott, or we could skip it. So I'll cue when you could keep going and when you could skip it. If it's really like, no, pressure on the wrist is not good. Or if we want to like play with it a little bit, flirt with danger. Just kidding. Don't flirt with danger, but like, inhale. Nothing dangerous. We're not doing anything dangerous. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, folding over. And at this juncture, you could chill here for quite a while, standing on your hands, maybe if that feels good. Or just letting you can grab opposite elbows and dangle there for as long as you want. And let's see what we could do. Could you put fists? You could put fists down. I don't know if this is good. Step back into a plank with fists. And then as soon as you want to, you can come back to child's pose. Okay, that's one option. You could put hands down and come back into a plank with hands. feeling that your heels are reaching back, right? It's all about like lower body is also doing stuff. The base of every finger is pressing down. And it's not so much pressure on the wrists, or at least you could tell yourself that. And then you can come back to downward facing dog from there if you want. Again, imagining that the pelvis is lifting up and back, taking pressure off of the wrists. And at the same time, you're literally driving down into the fingers and the base of the circumference of the palm, so that you're not really pressing into the heel of your hand, but rather your fingers. You can turn your hand slightly out so that you're pressing down through that space between the thumb and the first finger, which is a little better for bearing weight. And then eventually you'll bring your knees down and come back into child's pose. So we'll all meet in child's pose. Good. And then just for a second, you don't have to do this if you want to, but just for a moment, you could come forward onto your forearms. You could even interlace your hands like you're making a little basket, or you could have your palms flat. But just for a sec, we're gonna step back into a plank with the forearms down. So you could have it either way. And just feel that your crown of your head, your heels, and your tailbone are all activated. They're all going somewhere. Your heels are going back, your tailbone is going back, the crown of your head is going forward. Your weight is in your elbows and your forearms. And then if you kind of shift forward and back with the crown of your head, reach the crown of your head forward, reach the heels back, you can kind of feel that they're all connected. And then you can just release down onto your belly and rest. You could make a pillow for your face. You could bring your chin to one side, or your cheek to one side or the other. And then scooch onto the front body as much as you can. So pick up your feet one at a time and scoot them as far back as you can make them go. Shimmy onto the fronts of your thighs or the fronts of your pelvis. So as much of the front of you is on the ground as you can. And you can just nicely face plant down. And then press the tops of your feet onto the ground. And feel that as you press the tops of your feet into the ground, your knees can come off the ground a little bit. And maybe you feel that the tailbone starts to point down towards the heels. And maybe you feel that the belly almost kind of lifts away from the floor. They're all just things you might notice. Maybe. But you're really reaching your feet away from your head as much as you can. And then you can start to sort of reach the chest forward, and it might come up a little bit. And you can reach the arms back. So your feet stay on the ground. You're reaching the arms back. You're pulling the shoulders together. You're energizing through the shoulders. Chin is tucked, crown of the head and tailbone are pointing in opposite directions. And the belly's really light. You're not pushing into the belly in order to lift up. You're just getting so freaking long through the chest and through the fronts of the thighs that the head lifts a little bit. And then you can exhale and release back down. Good. And then you can use your hands to kind of walk yourself into a child's pose and eventually come up to just sitting on your heels. So now you're upright. Eventually, you can take a breath or two in child's pose and eventually come upright. Just feel your seat sitting, truly sitting onto your heels, sitting into the ground. If a different seat is more comfortable, you can always switch it. And feel this openness through the chest and this kind of stability through the shoulders. Your chin might tuck slightly in. And then you'll come to lie down. Just how we started, with your feet flat on the floor and your knees up towards the ceiling. Your chin is still tucked in. You can rest a hand on your upper and lower torso, elbows out to the sides. And feel how as you inhale, the chest kind of lights up, the shoulders are relaxing into the floor. As you exhale, your belly releases towards the spine. That space in the chest stays nice and bright and open. And then as you exhale and you let the breath move out through the nose, you let the belly come towards the spine. Feel the tailbone elongating towards your heels. So you might feel that space at the lower back actually sort of close towards the floor. Shoulders stay easy. Nothing's really tensing, but there's a little engagement maybe around the lower abdomen as the tailbone lengthens towards the heels. Then with each breath in, you can feel this kind of lift and space through the shoulders, through the chest, under the collarbones. And then you could, one at a time, bring your knees in towards your chest, hugging in, maybe the backs of the hamstrings or the fronts of the knees or fronts of the shins. Letting your shoulders be broad, maybe rocking side to side. If you want, you could bring the knees over to one side in a twist. It's a nice way to end. Just releasing any kind of tension around the spine by just letting gravity kind of twist you. Shoulder goes one way, knees go the other way. You're not really doing much. You're just letting yourself be twisted. Head can look any direction that's comfortable. It could look, in the opposite direction as the twist, or it could look in the same direction as the twist. And when it's time to change sides, I'll change sides. Yeah, and then you can take another little squeeze or another little rocking moment in Apanasana before coming to rest for as long as you want. You could come to Shavasana and fully just be there for as long as you want. You could also bring your feet down flat on the floor and rest with your knees bent. You could move to a seated pose. You could take some other movement that you feel like would feel good. You'll just take a second to rest in this whole body. Notice this whole body. Perhaps starting at the feet. And just in your awareness, noticing the feet, the ankle joints, the legs up to the knees, the knees up to the hips. Noticing the pelvis resting back onto the floor. And from the pelvis, you can walk your way up the spine, just noticing the lower back, coming up to the rib area, feeling your three-dimensionality as the breath moves in and out. You can just feel that expansion in all directions as the lungs expand, not only into the forward plane, but also they expand down and back and out to the sides, up into the collarbones, all directions. You can notice your shoulders, your arms to the elbow to the wrist. The wrist and the hand is made up of a bunch of bones. You can just kind of feel into that fact. You can feel all those little bones that make up the wrist and the hand. Imagining that there's some space between all of those little bones. And the fingers too, you can just feel the fingers. I notice this sense of kind of like a pulsation, maybe, or a sparkly tingliness in the hands, in the palms of the hands, or in the fingertips. And finally, you can notice the topmost part of the spine, the bones that make up the neck, and imagine that same kind of spaciousness there between the bones. And finally, the skull. The back of the head is resting back. All the beautifully expressive facial muscles right now are just resting. Feeling this whole body as one thing. Feeling how there's energy moving all throughout it. Your heartbeat, for example, you can notice all the different places where your heart seems to be beating. That's not, in the chest. You can feel your heartbeat, the effect of your heart beating. You feel it in your fingertips, right? Just feel this general aliveness that is in and throughout, all over. You can notice your two hands and your 2 feet, the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. And then when you feel like it, when you feel ready, you can start to roll to one side. Maybe noticing like as you roll to one side, your front body is curling up, right? You can feel curl up the front body, feel that expansion, that almost like a reaching in the back body. As you curl up the front body, feel the openness in the back body. So nice. As you push with the hands to come up to seated, push with the hands and notice how, I don't know, you push with the hands and the shoulders, the backs of the shoulders move. You sit down into your seat and your head floats up. Just all of these um, relationships that are there. Good. And then we'll close by chanting. We'll chant Om. And those of you who are just joining, of course, can join us in chanting. Welcome. So bring the palms together, maybe pressing the palms. And leave the palms pressing just for a moment, just to explore this in one other way. You can feel the base of your fingers all touching as you press your palms. You can feel them find their like buddy. You can feel all your fingertips finding their little buddy. Yeah. And can you feel that space actually at the palm of, at the base of the palm of the hand? That's a nice example. There's a little like pocket of air. Let's chant let's chant one more just with this relationship between the hands. So we'll inhale, feeling the connection really clearly of this hand touching this hand touching back. Yeah. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. Peace be unto us all.